Hey guys, before we begin, lock your doors, look around, and make sure you're safe. If you enjoy stories like this, hit like, tap, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us where you're listening from. Now, let's begin. In late May of 2010, a disturbing discovery was made in Costa Mesa, California. A young woman was found murdered in the apartment of 26-year-old Army veteran Sam Hare. His parents, upon finding the gruesome scene, frantically called emergency services. The woman was lying face down. Some of her clothes were torn and blood streamed from her head. Sam was nowhere to be found. The apartment itself appeared clean and tidy, typical of a bachelor, except for the bedroom. The bed was soaked in blood, and the victim appeared to have been sexually assaulted before she was killed by 2 gunshot wounds to the head. A knife lay on the bedside table unused. She wore a tiara, and the words "all yours" were scrawled on the back of her sweater. The victim was identified as 23-year-old Julie Kibuishi. Julie, born on Valentine's Day 1987, was the cherished first daughter of Japanese-American parents. A bright and bubbly young woman, she was a talented dancer and musician studying fashion design at Orange Coast Community College, where she met Sam. She also tutored him in anthropology. Her kindness tragically would cost her her life. All signs pointed to Sam as her killer, but he was gone. Sam Hare, born May 29, 1983, was the only child of a special education teacher and a stay-at-home mother. A fun-loving guy, he'd served in the United States Army, seeing action in Afghanistan and Germany. After his discharge, he enrolled at Orange Coast Community College on the GI Bill, where he befriended Julie. He had been diagnosed with PTSD after his service. Had his trauma led him to commit this crime? Text messages recovered from Julie's phone showed a concerning exchange with Sam on the day of her death. Initially friendly, his messages turned desperate, begging her to come to his apartment. He seemed troubled. Julie, concerned for her friend, agreed to meet him, thinking of him as family. Sam's car and passport were missing from his apartment, further fueling suspicion. The investigation, however, would soon unearth a far more intricate and shocking story. 8 years prior, in 2002, 18-year-old Sam Hare had been charged with involvement in the stabbing and beating death of 19-year-old Byron Benito. Though acquitted, the suspicion lingered in the minds of investigators. The case against Sam for Julie's murder was strong, but investigators now had to consider this unsettling evidence from the past. Detectives discovered that 4 withdrawals had been made from Sam's ATM accounts on the day of his disappearance. His credit card was also used at a pizza place in Long Beach. Surveillance footage from the ATM showed a teenager making the withdrawals. Neither police nor Sam's parents recognized the youth. It was clear someone was helping Sam evade capture. On May 26, 2010, Sam's credit card was used at another pizza place. Tracking the delivery, police found 17-year-old Wesley Freelick and some friends. Wesley had Sam's credit card, but he insisted he'd been given it by Daniel Wozniak, a local theater actor Wesley knew through community theater. Wozniak claimed to be a bail bondsman, needing to collect money Sam owed. 38-year-old Daniel Wozniak, born March 23, 1984, was a talented actor who loved the spotlight. He struggled financially, working various jobs, but maintaining his passion for the stage, where he met his fiancée. An invitation to his upcoming wedding was found in Sam Hare's apartment. The police investigation would reveal Wozniak's connection to the murder and a much darker story than anyone had imagined. When police apprehended Wozniak at his bachelor party, his reaction, the blood draining from his face, suggested he knew more than he was letting on. Initially, he admitted only to credit card fraud, claiming to be covering for Sam. He said Sam had confessed to the murder and that he'd dropped Sam off at a local shopping center. However, detectives were skeptical. They took a DNA sample from Wozniak, a move that visibly unnerved him. He began to elaborate, adding details to his story. He admitted to being present when Sam was killed. Wozniak's confession revealed a chilling detail he knew about Julie's murder and helped Sam get away. He insisted his DNA wouldn't be found on Julie's body, but the detectives bluffed, claiming a DNA match had already been made. His confidence wavered, his story shifted again. The pressure mounted, his lies crumbling. He confessed to a second gunshot wound on Julie's body, a detail only revealed during the autopsy. This placed him at the scene of the crime as an accomplice. Even with Wozniak in custody, detectives still needed to find Sam. While searching for clues, they intercepted a phone call between Wozniak and his fiancée Rachel Buffett. Rachel, choosing freedom over love, informed the detectives about an evidence bag Wozniak had given his brother Tim to dispose of. The bag contained incriminating evidence: Sam's financial details, passport, bloody clothes, and the murder weapon. Wozniak's DNA was all over it. Wozniak, under immense pressure, finally broke down the timeline of his murderous plan. On May 21, 2010, he'd asked Sam to help move boxes at the theater. While Sam's back was turned, he shot him twice in the head, then texted Julie from Sam's phone, luring her to Sam's apartment. He left Sam's body in the attic, then went on with his play, as if nothing had happened. After the performance, he returned to Sam's apartment and murdered Julie, staging the scene to make it look like Sam had fled. In a truly horrifying act, Wozniak dismembered Sam's hands and head, disposing of them in a nearby park. Despite these heinous crimes, he continued to perform in the play, laughing and joking with cast members. The motive: money. Wozniak was deeply in debt, facing eviction, and couldn't afford his extravagant wedding plans. He'd learned Sam had $62,000 in savings, making the murders in his mind a way to fund his wedding and honeymoon. The evidence was overwhelming. The murder weapon, Sam's financial information, and Wozniak's DNA all pointed to him as the sole perpetrator of the double homicide. On December 16, 2015, after a 5-day trial, Wozniak was found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder. The jury recommended the death penalty, and on September 23, 2016, he was sentenced to death. Rachel Buffett, Wozniak's former fiancée, was also implicated. She'd been deceptive to the detectives, denying knowledge of the plot. She was arrested and charged with 3 felony counts of accessory after the fact. On September 12, 2018, she was convicted on 2 counts and sentenced to 32 months in prison, released sometime in 2019. 2 innocent lives were tragically taken and families were devastated, all because of one man's greed and depravity. The case left a lasting impact, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface. The sheer callousness of Wozniak's actions, his ability to maintain a facade of normalcy while committing such unspeakable acts, remains deeply unsettling. The story ends with a haunting question: what could drive a man to such horrific acts for something as trivial as a lavish wedding? The answer perhaps lies in the chilling depths of his depraved mind. Late November of 1988 dawned a beautiful autumn day, the first day of Thanksgiving break. 2 best friends, 9-year-old Michaela Garrick and her friend Katrina Rodriguez, were excitedly heading to a grocery store just 2 blocks from their homes. It was their first unsupervised trip, a big step towards independence. Little did they know, a predator was lurking about to transform their happiest memory into a nightmare. Michaela, born January 24, 1979, was a miracle child. Her parents said conceived after years of fertility treatments. She was bright and lively, well-behaved, and loved by all. Her mother, Sharon, was fiercely protective, wary of letting her children stray too far without supervision, a common sentiment in the era of rising child abductions in California. That Saturday morning after breakfast, Katrina asked Sharon if she and Michaela could go to the Rainbow Market for snacks. Initially refused, Michaela pleaded, promising to be careful and return quickly. Sharon, knowing her daughter would soon be grown, relented, reminding them to be cautious. She gave Michaela $5, and the girls, after saying, "I love you, Mom," excitedly set off. At the Rainbow Market, after buying snacks, the girls realized they'd left their scooters. They separated to find them. Michaela spotted hers, first moved several parking spaces away. As she bent to retrieve it, a man suddenly grabbed her, shoving her into his car and speeding away. Katrina, frozen in horror, watched helplessly. She ran back into the store, telling the cashier, Rona Ronalan, that Michaela had been kidnapped. Rona immediately called the police and Katrina's father. Back at home, Sharon was washing dishes when her husband Rod burst in yelling that Michaela had been kidnapped. They rushed to the store, finding police already on the scene, interviewing witnesses. Katrina, inconsolable, was sent home with her father. Sharon and Rod stayed, hoping for answers, but a deep fear settled upon them. Sharon remembered a poem Michaela had written just days before, a chilling premonition about people being kidnapped and locked away. Rona, the cashier, gave police a description of the kidnapper, a white male in his 30s with a mustache, driving a burgundy or maroon car. A composite sketch was created and distributed. The scooter was recovered. A latent handprint was found on the handle. The FBI joined the investigation, searching for links to other missing children cases. However, they soon realized Katrina might offer a more accurate description of the suspect. 2 days later, investigators spoke with Katrina. Her description differed drastically from Rona's. She described the man as a white male in his early 20s, with long, dirty blonde hair, severe acne scarring his face, and distinctive blue fox eyes. His car was beige or tan, boxy, and damaged. This meant the crucial initial 48 hours had been wasted pursuing the wrong suspect. Updated posters were distributed with Katrina's description. The search expanded to include sex offenders in the area, volunteers canvassing neighborhoods, distributing posters with Michaela's picture and description. The search also extended to nearby national parks and canyons, following tips from hikers who found a blanket and empty food containers. A psychological profile suggested the kidnapper might have taken Michaela to a remote area. Extensive searches, including helicopters with infrared cameras, yielded no results. Michaela and her kidnapper vanished. Michaela's disappearance made national news. Her story was featured on Unsolved Mysteries and America's Most Wanted. Her face appeared on milk cartons and millions of missing children cards. A large reward was offered, yet despite thousands of tips over the years, Michaela remained missing. Another 4 years would pass before investigators received a potentially credible lead. Between 1991 and 1992, an inmate in Indiana, Roger Haggard, serving an 11-year sentence for burglary, claimed to know about Michaela's disappearance. He alleged he'd helped a friend bury her body in a gladiolus field in Union City. Initially dismissed as a wild goose chase, Haggard's persistence and subsequent contact with the media forced investigators to act. Haggard, under oath before a grand jury, repeated his claims, promising to lead investigators to Michaela's remains and the alleged killer's home. An 8-hour search of the field yielded nothing. Haggard admitted to fabricating the story, claiming he'd wanted to bring peace to the Garrick family. He was charged with perjury and sentenced to an additional 6 years in prison, ordered to pay the Garricks $6,000 in damages. Another person of interest emerged: 43-year-old Timothy Binder, a sewage treatment plant worker. Parents in the East Bay had reported his creepy behavior, sending young girls gifts and money, writing letters backward only readable with a mirror. Binder had been arrested for attempting to lure young girls into his van, but charges were dropped. Binder had a disturbing pattern of inserting himself into missing children cases. He contacted both Sharon Garrick and Kim Schwartz, mother of 7-year-old Amber Schwartz, who had disappeared earlier that year. Both mothers felt uneasy around him. Eerily, Binder had written to police after Amber's disappearance, predicting the next missing child would be a 9-year-old girl, Michaela. He also sent a Christmas card to an FBI profiler with a girl holding up 4 fingers. Binder was also linked to the disappearance of 13-year-old Eileen Michelhoff from Dublin, California. His strange behavior and interest in these cases gained media attention, making him a focal point for public anger. He was harassed and eventually sued the city of Fairfield for defamation, winning the case. Despite this, the investigation into Binder eventually stalled, with many believing his intentions were misguided rather than malicious. The case continued to captivate the public and challenge investigators. Curtis Dean Anderson, arrested in August 2000 for the abduction and murder of 7-year-old Ziana Fairchild, claimed to have killed 13 other women and girls, including Amber Schwartz. He mentioned a brown 1977 Chevy sedan matching Katrina's description of the vehicle used in Michaela's abduction. However, Anderson died in December 2007 before providing further details. In August 2012, Wesley Shermantine, one half of the Speed Freak Killers, contacted the Stockton Record following his partner Lauren Herzog's suicide. He noted Herzog's resemblance to the composite sketch of Michaela's kidnapper, supported by Katrina's statements. Investigators searched a well in Linden, California, where the duo allegedly disposed of victims. Thousands of bone fragments were recovered. Some were believed to belong to Michaela, but this lead was inconclusive, leaving the case shrouded in mystery. 8 more years passed before a significant breakthrough. On December 21, 2020, the Hayward Police Department and FBI announced an arrest. 61-year-old David Misch was charged with Michaela's kidnapping and murder. New technology linked his fingerprints to those lifted from Michaela's scooter in 1988. Misch's background revealed a shocking history of violent crime, a sexual assault at 16, followed by arrests for false imprisonment and assault with intent to rape. He served time for burglary and was later linked through DNA to the 1986 double homicide of Michelle Xavier and Jennifer Dewey in Fremont. Misch was charged with 3 counts of murder and 1 of kidnapping. He faced a possible death sentence. Misch's arrest brought a sense of relief to the Garrick family, although Rod Garrett admitted that the years of waiting had taken their toll. Sharon, diagnosed with metastatic cancer in 2019, was unable to attend the press conference. Chief Chaplain read a statement on her behalf, expressing a bittersweet acceptance of Michaela's likely death, while simultaneously grappling with the sudden harsh reality of her daughter's murder. Misch's attorney Ernie Castillo criticized the investigation, calling the evidence junk science. He argued that the fingerprint match after 32 years was improbable, and suggested police were using Misch as an easy scapegoat to close the case. The lack of Michaela's body further complicated matters. It could be used as leverage later in negotiations. Katrina Rodriguez, now a middle-aged woman living in Texas, still carried the guilt of that fateful day. She believed she was the intended target, since it was her scooter that was moved. The trauma had left a lasting impact, blurring the memories of her childhood. Sharon, in her tireless search for Michaela, had created a blog initially titled Dear Michaela, later changed to Seekers Road, a testament to her unwavering dedication. Sharon sadly passed away in May 2022 before seeing justice served. The case took another unexpected turn when Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price made the decision to drop the special circumstances charges in the 3 killings. This meant Misch no longer faced life without parole or the death penalty. This decision drew strong criticism. Michael Klass, a child safety advocate whose daughter had been abducted and murdered, called it a complete and utter betrayal. Misch's defense attorney welcomed the news, pointing out weaknesses in the prosecution's case. Retired Fremont Lieutenant Chuck Euler, who'd worked on the Xavier and Dewey murders, expressed his dismay, arguing that Misch deserved maximum punishment. A former prosecutor and KTVU legal analyst called the move reckless, stating that no punishment should be removed from the table. The lack of Michaela's body became a bargaining chip. Its discovery could influence future plea negotiations. Misch awaited trial on 3 counts of murder and one of kidnapping. The Michaela Garrett case highlighted the pitfalls of flawed investigations, the initial mistaken identity costing crucial time and resources. The case exemplified the struggle of a family grasping at straws for decades, now facing the possibility that the alleged killer might escape full accountability. The enduring mystery of Michaela's body's whereabouts remains a haunting element of the story. The case serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unresolved crimes and the complexities of the justice system. Pranks are a common part of life used for entertainment and to diffuse tension. But sometimes pranks go horribly wrong with devastating consequences. This case begins with a prank that spiraled out of control, ultimately destroying families and unfolding on social media. Our story takes us to India, specifically Kollam in the state of Kerala, known as the cashew capital of the world. On Tuesday, January 5, 2021, 55-year-old Sudar Shahan Pillai performed his morning prayers at the local temple. Returning home, he made tea. His serene morning was shattered by his daughter, 22-year-old Rishma Varma, bursting in distress, carrying a newborn baby still attached to the umbilical cord. Neighbors gathered, speculating about the baby's mother. No one in the neighborhood had recently been pregnant. An ambulance rushed the baby to the government medical college hospital, then to a private hospital. Despite efforts to save him, the baby died that evening from heart failure and a respiratory infection caused by debris lodged in his trachea. Police, health officials, and a canine squad arrived at the Pillai home searching for clues. News outlets descended on the quiet village, fueling speculation. For weeks, investigations continued, interviewing women who were pregnant or had recently given birth, reviewing hospital records and cell phone data. Efforts to identify the parents were unsuccessful. Investigators obtained a warrant to collect DNA samples from those suspected of being responsible. The process was slow, hampered by surging COVID-19 infections and the Kerala Assembly elections, which shifted officials' priorities. The Pillai family cooperated fully, determined to find the baby's parents. The event shocked their peaceful village, prompting questions about the perpetrator's actions. 5 months passed, leaving villagers questioning what had transpired. The community commended the Pillai family for their assistance in the investigation. On June 22, 2021, police arrested Rishma Varma, the woman who discovered the baby. The seemingly heroic act masked a darker truth. DNA evidence confirmed that Rishma and her husband Vishnu Varma were the baby's biological parents. Rishma was charged with murder. During questioning, Rishma confessed to a story of love and deception. In early 2020, she befriended a man named Anandu on Facebook. The friendship deepened, and Rishma fell in love, finding solace in the relationship during the pandemic's social distancing restrictions. Despite a loving relationship with her husband, Vishnu, Rishma kept her online affair a secret. She concealed her pregnancy using body shapers and wraps to hide her growing belly, claiming menstrual problems and backaches to avoid intimacy with Vishnu. She also hid her pregnancy from Anandu, fearing he wouldn't approve of an elopement if he knew she was carrying Vishnu's child. Rishma gave birth at home, then abandoned the baby behind the house. She staged the discovery, hoping to avoid suspicion and facilitate her escape with Anandu. However, this plan backfired, leading investigators directly to her. Vishnu, working abroad, was shocked by his wife's arrest, claiming ignorance of her pregnancy. Rishma's father, Sudarshanan Pillai, also expressed disbelief, noting the lack of typical pregnancy symptoms. He recounted a recent family trip where Rishma showed no signs of discomfort. The family's reputation in the village was impeccable. Neighbors were equally surprised and confused by Rishma's actions. Her past actions revealed a pattern of deception. At 18, Rishma had secretly consummated her relationship with Vishnu before their formal marriage, becoming pregnant 4 months prior. Her family, while disapproving of the premarital pregnancy, allowed the marriage to proceed, prioritizing Rishma's happiness. Months later, she gave birth to a daughter, revealing the secret pregnancy. This past deception revealed a pattern of secretive behavior. Following the baby's discovery, a neighbor believing the mother to be someone else in the community posted a photo of the baby on Facebook. Rishma, always helpful and seemingly unconcerned, was at the center of the subsequent search. Her calm demeanor concealed the truth, reinforcing the village's trust in her. Investigators examined Rishma and Anandu's Facebook messages, hoping for answers. They uncovered numerous exchanges suggesting plans to elope and start anew. But another twist emerged. Anandu's profile was fake. Police discovered that after the Varkala incident, Rishma's failed attempt to meet Anandu, she used a SIM card belonging to her sister-in-law, 23-year-old Arya Varma. Arya and Rishma were close along with their niece, 22-year-old Grishma. Both were summoned for questioning. On June 24, 2021, Arya and Grishma disappeared. Cell phone data traced them to the Ithakara River, known for its strong currents. Dive teams recovered their bodies from the river. A letter written by Arya revealed their ordeal and guilt over Rishma's actions, expressing remorse and seeking forgiveness. Initially, police believed Arya and Grishma knew about Rishma's plan to abandon the baby and elope. The family confirmed the three women's close bond. However, they were baffled by their actions, since Rishma seemed content and Vishnu was a devoted husband. A friend of Grishma provided crucial testimony, revealing that Arya and Grishma created the fake Anandu profile as a prank. The prank, intended to see if Rishma would fall for another man, spiraled out of control. They were unaware of Rishma's intense infatuation or pregnancy. The friend revealed that Arya and Grishma had hired someone to observe Rishma's meeting in Varkala and report back. They also secretly tipped off Vishnu, hoping he'd discover Rishma's virtual affair. They were unaware of the extent of Rishma's deception and subsequent actions. Arya's mother-in-law corroborated the testimony, stating Arya expressed deep guilt and shame after Rishma's arrest. The social media prank had catastrophic consequences, leaving the families questioning their understanding of their loved ones. The Pillai family was devastated by the events. Sudarshanan Pillai lamented the loss of a potential grandson. The Varma family mourned the loss of two daughters. Ranjith, Arya's husband, was emotionally detached and unable to process the events. This tragedy highlighted the misuse of social media and the blurred lines between reality and fantasy in online interactions. The case raised questions about individual responsibility, the impact of social media on relationships, and the ripple effects of seemingly innocent actions. The devastating consequences underscore the importance of considering the potential repercussions before acting. July 31, 1999. 17-year-old high school seniors and best friends J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hollett left their hometown of Dothan, Alabama for a birthday party in Headland. They got lost and ended up in Ozark, Alabama. A phone call to Tracy's mother around 11:30 p.m. revealed they were heading home, but neither girl would ever arrive. Ozark, a charming southern town near the Florida border, was home to Fort Rucker and about 15,000 people. It wasn't known for major crimes until the gruesome discovery of two lifeless bodies. J.B. Beasley, born July 31, 1981, was an outgoing girl involved in cheerleading, dance, piano, swimming, and modeling. She was close to her family and friends. Tracy Hollett, born March 3, 1982, was a bit shy but caring and protective of her younger brothers. She was a good student and cheerleader alongside J.B. Both girls had bright futures ahead, unaware of their impending fate. Around 10:05 p.m. they left Dothan for Headland. They got lost and stopped at a BP gas station around 10:30 p.m. calling friends for directions. Afterward they drove to Ozark, realizing they were still lost. Around 11:30 p.m., They stopped at the Big Little store, which was closed. Tracy called her mother, explaining they were lost and heading home. A woman, Marilyn Merritt, who'd stopped at the gas station, gave the girls directions back to Dothan. Merritt recalled seeing them drive away, turning right as instructed. However, they never made it home. The next morning, Tracy's mother reported her missing. Police quickly found JB's car parked on Herring Avenue in Ozark. The gas tank was almost empty despite being full the previous day. The car was muddy, the driver's side window was down, and the doors locked. There were no signs of forced entry. Inside, JB's license and the girls' purses, cash, and jewelry remained. Only JB's car keys were missing. The girls were nowhere to be seen. A palm print was found on the trunk lid. Suspecting the worst, it took 6 hours for police to open the locked trunk, revealing the girls' lifeless bodies. Both were fully clothed, but their pants were soiled. They'd each been shot once in the head, Tracy, in the temple, JB in the cheek. A 9mm shell casing was found on Tracy's leg. JB's clothing was muddy and dirty. Authorities concluded the killings were execution style, likely inside the trunk. Initial suspicions of robbery were quickly dismissed due to the presence of the girls' belongings. Autopsies revealed no signs of alcohol or drugs. Initially, no sexual assault was evident, but later testing revealed traces of unknown semen on JB's clothing and body. The palm print remained unidentified. The investigation stalled. A reward offered yielded no leads. A major break came on September 1st, a month after the bodies were found. 28-year-old Johnny William Barentine walked into the Ozark Police Department, claiming to have witnessed the murders. Barentine's story, however, was riddled with inconsistencies, changing multiple times during a 4-hour interview. He initially claimed to have seen a black truck speeding away, then implicated a tattooed man he'd given a ride to, claiming the man had forced the girls into his car. A struggle ensued, then gunshots were heard before he drove the man away. Later, he identified his neighbor as the man. Police arrested Barentine, charging him with 2 counts of capital murder. However, his story lacked details consistent with the crime. His account of the events changed dramatically. He also failed to mention any sexual activity. Furthermore, the neighbor he implicated had an alibi. His mugshot revealed a startled expression. Barentine quickly confessed to fabricating the story to claim the reward money. Despite this, he was initially considered the prime suspect. However, he was released after his DNA did not match the semen found on J.B.'s clothing and body. A Dale County grand jury declined to indict him in January 2000. The investigation faced criticism regarding its methods and handling of the case. Despite Barentine's exoneration, the investigation continued. Potential suspects remained. A man from Michigan present at a party near where JB's car was found became a person of interest. He couldn't account for several hours of his time the night of the murders, and made suspicious statements, but he too was eventually ruled out due to DNA evidence. Another lead centered on the driver of a small white pickup truck, seen on grainy surveillance footage at the Big Little store gas pumps around the time of the girl's phone call. There was no record of a gas purchase, and the driver couldn't be identified. This lead too went cold. A man from Mississippi arrested on an outstanding warrant was questioned, but no significant information was obtained. A woman contacted police claiming to have heard screams and gunshots near Highway 123 South the night of the murders, but the bullet found at the scene didn't match the shell casing found on Tracy. The case grew cold, remaining unsolved for years. In 2015, a bombshell allegation emerged. Rena Crum, an Ozark auxiliary police officer, accused an Ozark police officer of the murders, claiming a cover-up. Crum alleged that the officer had stopped J.B. Beasley, demanding cassette tapes containing incriminating conversations about illegal cocaine distribution. Crum claimed that the officer murdered JB and Tracy to prevent the tapes from being used as evidence in a court case scheduled for August 2nd. She alleged harassment and threats from multiple law enforcement officials who knew the killer's identity. She named Gary Butch Whittington, Rex Tipton, Eddie Henderson, and then Chief Tony Spivey, but hesitated to name the actual perpetrator. Journalist John B. Carroll wrote an article supporting Crum's claims, stating that the officer, fearing the tape's implications, murdered the girls. Carroll also reported that Crum had been severely beaten after coming forward, preventing her from revealing the killer's name. The accused officials denied any involvement. The allegations ignited controversy on true crime websites and social media, leading to a defamation lawsuit filed against Crum Carroll and Dean Matthews. The case was dismissed in 2018. Crum was later convicted of harassing JB's sister and received a suspended sentence and fine. Despite numerous investigations and interviews, the case remained unsolved. It took 20 years and advancements in DNA technology for a breakthrough. In March 2019, DNA from JB's body and clothing was sent to Parabon Nanolabs in Virginia, which specializes in DNA phenotyping and genetic genealogy. This finally linked a suspect to the crime, 45-year-old Coley Lewis McCraney. McCraney, an Alabama native, was an athlete and library club president in high school, later serving in the U.S. Air Force. He had a previous assault charge filed by his first wife. He'd worked as a trucker and co-founded a church. He lived about a mile from where the bodies were found. McCraney was arrested during a traffic stop on March 19, 2019. He denied knowing the victims. His arrest shocked the community, including Ozark Police Chief Marlins Walker, who'd attended school with him. Rena Crum, who previously accused the Ozark Police Department of a cover-up, later recanted her allegations during McCraney's hearing in August 2022. McCraney faced 5 counts of capital murder. The families of JB and Tracy found some solace in his arrest, but faced the pain of reliving the trauma through trials. The case, with its numerous twists and turns, finally seemed to be nearing a resolution. But the full truth and motive behind this brutal crime continued to unravel. The beauty of Ingolstadt, Germany, with its Gothic architecture, is overshadowed by a vicious murder. Close to midnight on August 16, 2022, Bavarian police received a frantic call from the parents of German beauty blogger Sharaban K. She was traveling to Munich to meet her ex-husband, but had not returned home and was unreachable. Her parents discovered her abandoned Mercedes near the Danube River. Inside, a gruesome sight awaited them, the body of a young woman brutally stabbed, her face disfigured, blood soaking the car's interior. Paramedics attempted resuscitation, but it was too late. Sharaban's parents identified her despite the severe facial injuries. Police released a statement about a young woman's murder, a violent crime. The German press released only her first name and a photo in accordance with legal procedure. 23-year-old Sharaban K, of German-Iraqi descent, was a beautician who frequently blogged about her work. Authorities released little personal information, but it's believed she spent significant time on social media. Investigators found several knives at the scene, none of which were the murder weapon. They determined the murder occurred elsewhere. The body was dumped in the car. A search of the surrounding area yielded no clues, including the murder weapon itself. An autopsy revealed 50 stab wounds with no other injuries or signs of sexual assault. DNA testing was conducted identifying the victim. The ensuing investigation into Sharaban's potential killers took an unexpected turn. The twist was surreal. The victim was not Sharaban K. The body was identified as 23-year-old Khadija O., an Algerian beauty blogger living in Heilbronn, over 100 miles from Munich. Details about Khadija's life were scarce, but she too used social media to promote her beauty blog. The investigation shifted. Sharaban became a suspect in Khadija's murder. Tips received earlier about a woman resembling the victim seen in Ingolstadt were initially dismissed but now warranted investigation. CCTV footage from August 17th, the day after the body's discovery, showed Sharaban at a local pizzeria. Interviews led investigators to the apartment of 23-year-old Shakir K., a Kosovan national and Sharaban's alleged lover. The apartment's proximity to the location where the body was found was significant. Shakir and Sharaban were arrested on August 19, 2022. Khadija's online profile revealed she and Sharaban had connected on Instagram in the summer of 2022. Numerous chats between them existed, with Sharaban repeatedly requesting an in-person meeting. The women bore a striking resemblance. Investigators examined Sharaban's online presence, discovering multiple fake accounts across various platforms. They determined that Sharaban and Shakir had been searching for lookalikes, contacting at least 5 women, all of whom declined requests to meet. The couple's motives were gradually revealed. Police revealed to the German newspaper Bild that Sharaban sought a doppelganger to fake her own death. She was experiencing family difficulties and desperately wanted to disappear. Khadija O., unfortunately, became the victim of Sharaban's deception. Sharaban allegedly posed as the German rapper Loon, inviting Khadija to appear in a music video. Khadija, unsure, contacted Loon directly, leaving a voice message expressing her doubt. Loon responded, confirming the invitation was fake. Sharaban then offered Khadija beauty products. She was known to use an offer Khadija couldn't refuse. This deception lured Khadija to her death. Police pieced together the events leading to Khadija's murder. Sharaban lied to her parents about a meeting with her ex-husband. She met Shakir in Ingolstadt on August 16, 2022, and drove to Khadija's home in Heilbronn. They then drove back to Ingolstadt, stopping in a wooded area. Khadija was forced from the car and stabbed over 50 times, her face deliberately disfigured to hinder identification. Her body was placed in Sharaban's car, then abandoned in Ingolstadt. The killers hoped the staged murder would facilitate Sharaban's escape. The thoroughness of the investigation, however, prevented Sharaban's escape. Police searched for identifying features beyond just facial characteristics, which foiled the killer's plan. Sharaban and Shakir remained in custody for nearly 5 months before being officially charged. On January 26 and 27, 2023, Sharaban and Shakir were charged with first-degree murder in Khadija's death. They celebrated their 24th birthdays behind bars, likely facing life sentences if convicted. A police spokesperson stated that the evidence was overwhelming, despite the murder weapon remaining undiscovered. The brutality of the crime, 50 stab wounds and severe facial disfigurement, was cited as evidence of the couple's culpability. Sharaban's parents, initially relieved to find their daughter alive, were profoundly shocked and saddened by the revelation of her involvement in Khadija's murder. The rapper Loon also released a statement expressing sympathy for Khadija and warning fans about online dangers. The case highlighted the dark side of social media, where appearances can be deceptive and evil can hide behind a beautiful face. It served as a stark warning about online interactions and the importance of vigilance and caution when making online connections. Sharaban's desperate attempt to escape her family using such extreme and callous measures leaves many questions unanswered. The case is a chilling reminder of the lengths some people will go to, and the devastating consequences of their actions, even for those who are seemingly innocent. The story ends with a powerful question. What drove Sharaban to such extreme measures to avoid her family? September 4, 1981. 12-year-old Tim Slayton and 15-year-old Jeff Slayton returned home to find their mother Linda Slayton dead in her bedroom. She lay partially naked, beaten with a metal coat hanger around her neck. The crime scene suggested a brutal attack, leaving the community wondering who was responsible. Lakeland, Florida in 1981 was a thriving city with numerous businesses and residential areas, many duplexes housing families with young children. Linda and her sons had moved from Hartselle, Alabama to Lakeland just 2 weeks before the incident. Linda Patterson Slayton, born March 8, 1950, had been married to Frank Slayton, the father of her 2 sons. The marriage was marred by Frank's abusive behavior fueled by alcoholism. Linda divorced Frank in 1974, starting a new life as a single mother. Linda worked hard to provide for Jeff and Tim. They walked or shared rides to school. They enjoyed playing football, often receiving rides from their coach, Coach Joe, to and from practice. A week before the murder, Linda prepared her home for her mother's visit, hoping for assistance in managing the household. Linda's sister Judy frequently visited. On September 4, 1981, around 8:30 a.m., Judy arrived to find Linda's bedroom window open, a sheet missing. She found Linda's lifeless body partially naked, a wire coat hanger around her neck. She immediately called emergency services. Police arrived quickly along with news reporters and medical personnel. Jeff and Tim were awakened and sent to their grandparents while the home was secured as a crime scene. Jeff avoided seeing his mother's body. Tim, however, witnessed the horrifying sight. Linda was 31 years old. Sergeant Edgar Pickett led the investigation. He noted a palm print on Linda's bedroom windowsill, the same window with the missing sheet. The autopsy revealed bruises, marks, and a fractured skull. Linda had been brutally beaten, sexually assaulted, and strangled with the coat hanger. The palm print became a crucial piece of evidence. Forensic DNA analysis wasn't available then. Police investigated Linda's family. Frank Slayton, her abusive ex-husband, became a person of interest, but had an alibi being in Alabama at the time of the murder. Jeff Slayton, initially a suspect due to a prior argument with his mother, was cleared after passing polygraph tests. Linda's boyfriend also had an alibi and was cleared. The investigation stalled until September 2001, when a tip surfaced about Jimmy Ulmer, a man convicted of a similar crime who'd been staying in the same apartment complex. Ulmer's death, however, prevented a DNA comparison. Years passed. The case went cold. The Slayton brothers, supported by their grandparents Clarence and Margaret Harris, rebuilt their lives. They remained determined to find their mother's killer. Jeff married and had 2 children. Tim also married and started a family. In 1998, 17 years after Linda's death, the case was reassigned to Detective Brad Grace. He discovered unidentified DNA from 1981 and sent it to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE. A DNA profile of the killer was developed, and a comparison process began. In 2001, Detective Grace obtained DNA samples from the Slayton brothers and Frank Slayton. None matched the killer's profile. Jeff was fully cleared. The unidentified DNA profile was submitted to the FBI's National DNA Database in 2005, continuously cross-referenced with new samples. Dozens of suspects were eliminated through DNA evidence. Detective Grace retired in 2015 after 17 years on the case. The case was then assigned to Detectives Tommy Hathcock and Russell Hurley. 3 years into the investigation, they learned about groundbreaking DNA technology at the FDLE that could help identify the unknown killer. They sent the unidentified DNA to C.C. Moore, a genetic genealogist at the FDLE. Moore uploaded the DNA to GEDmatch, a public genealogy website. She built a genetic family tree using birth certificates, marriage certificates, obituaries, and social media data. Moore created 3 family tree branches, leading to the identification of a single individual who was a likely match for the unknown DNA profile. The family tree pointed to a shocking suspect, Joseph Clinton Mills, often called Coach Joe. Detectives investigated Mills's background. He'd lived in Kathleen, Florida, about 30 minutes from the crime scene and had a family. They found a past instance where Mills had been implicated in grand theft, forging a will for which he was never charged. However, his fingerprints and palm prints were on file. The palm print from Linda Slayton's windowsill in 1981 was compared to Mills's palm print. A match was found. Detectives needed Mills's DNA for testing to confirm their findings. They obtained his DNA covertly by searching through his garbage, recovering a piece of medical adhesive tape. The crime lab confirmed a match between the unknown DNA from the Slayton case and Mills's DNA on the tape. In December 2019, Mills was arrested and questioned. In 1981, he was about 20 years old and lived near the Slaytons. He'd often picked up Tim for football practice. Mills claimed Linda invited him over for consensual sex, a claim detectives dismissed. They believed he targeted Linda having access to the Slayton home through his involvement with Tim's football practice. The investigation pieced together the night of the murder. Mills claimed he dropped Tim off after practice, returning later to break into Linda's bedroom through the window. He hid in her closet until she fell asleep, then sexually assaulted and strangled her with a wire hanger. Mills pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and sexual battery. At sentencing, Linda's family confronted him, demanding answers. He simply stated, "I am a good person," offering no explanation or apology. He received a life sentence without parole. The Slayton brothers, while relieved Mills would never be free, felt immense anger at the years he'd enjoyed freedom while they lived without their mother. Tim expressed disbelief that his trusted coach Joe was their mother's killer. The case served as a grim reminder of the hidden darkness that can exist within a seemingly trusted individual. Despite their profound loss, the brothers have found a way to move forward, continuing to honor their mother's memory and maintain a strong bond, finding solace in family and in their enduring determination to find and obtain justice for their mother. December 15, 1997. Luzada Cuevas and Pedro Vera's Philadelphia home caught fire. Their two older children were rescued, but their 10-day-old baby girl, Dilimar Cuevas Vera, was missing. The question remained, was the fire an accident or part of a sinister plot? Luzada Cuevas, known as Luz, born in 1971, was of Hispanic descent and had moved to the USA at a young age. She worked from a young age, and after meeting Pedro, Vera fell in love and married, having 2 sons. She always longed for a daughter. At 26, Luz became pregnant again. On December 5, 1997, she gave birth to Delimar. The family celebrated their new daughter. 10 days later, they hosted a small gathering at their Feltonville home in North Philadelphia. That evening, Delimar was put to sleep in her crib in the upstairs bedroom. Luz went downstairs to do chores. Carolyn Correa, Pedro's cousin, was visiting because her car's brakes were broken. Pedro was working on them. Around 7 p.m., a loud noise came from upstairs, followed by smoke. The house was on fire. Luz rescued her 2 sons while Carolyn ran to call Pedro. Luz rushed upstairs, battling smoke, to reach Delimar's room, which was engulfed in flames. She had to retreat, overcome by smoke. Luz ran into the street, screaming for help. Neighbors responded, but the smoke and flames prevented them from entering the burning house. The fire department arrived quickly and extinguished the blaze in 15 minutes, but the second floor, including Delimar's room, sustained significant damage. Firefighters searched Delimar's room, but found no trace of the baby. They broke the devastating news to Luz and Pedro. Luz, devastated and injured from the smoke and flames, was convinced she'd left Delimar in her crib and couldn't understand how the baby wasn't there. The investigation into the fire determined it started due to a faulty extension cord connected to a space heater. The case was closed, concluding the baby had perished in the fire. However, Luz remained convinced Delimar was still alive. no remains were ever found. Luz's unwavering belief caused a rift with her family and led to her separation from Pedro. She felt something wasn't right, citing the empty crib, the open bedroom window on a cold night, and the absence of any remains. She wanted a further investigation, but lacked the financial resources to pursue it. Years passed. Then on January 24, 2004, Luz attended a family party in Philadelphia. She saw a 6-year-old girl who bore a striking resemblance to Delamar. The girl had a dimple similar to one of Luz's sons. Luz discovered the girl's name was Aaliyah Hernandez, Carolyn Correa's daughter. Luz was certain Aaliyah was Delamar. To gather evidence, Luz discreetly collected several of Aaliyah's hairs and brought them to the police, but her claims were dismissed due to the closed case. Carolyn produced Aaliyah's birth certificate, which stated the child was born on January 6, 1998, at home. Despite Luz's insistence, police wouldn't conduct a DNA test. Determined, Luz sought help from State Representative All Hail Cruz. Cruz, initially skeptical, found Luz credible. He forwarded the hair samples and Luz's information to the district attorney's office. DNA tests confirmed Luz's belief Aaliyah was indeed Delamar. Carolyn was given a DNA test, and the truth came out. The revelation that Aaliyah Hernandez was, in fact, Delamar Cuevas Vera shocked everyone. Carolyn Correa, Pedro's cousin, had kidnapped the baby and started the fire to cover her tracks. The question remained, why and how had she managed to deceive everyone for so long? Carolyn had a history of difficult pregnancies and miscarriages. She had 3 children, 2 healthy sons and a daughter. Yet she kidnapped Delamar just 10 days old. The timeline suggested a possible ulterior motive. Records showed Carolyn had given birth to a baby girl 3 days before the fire at Luz and Pedro's home, but the fate of that child remained unclear. Carolyn's boyfriend at the time believed she was pregnant and that he was the father. A friend corroborated that Carolyn had a home birth. When confronted with the DNA evidence and the fact that Aaliyah was not her biological daughter, Carolyn was stunned. She refused to believe Aaliyah was Delamar. The investigation resumed, focusing on Carolyn's actions that night. Carolyn used her car trouble as a pretext to enter Luz and Pedro's home after the party. She waited until Luz was distracted before stealing the baby from her crib and setting the fire. Carolyn then took Delamar to her home in Willingboro, New Jersey. Days later, she claimed a home birth, naming the baby Aaliyah Hernandez. For 6 years, Carolyn raised Delamar as her own, enrolling her in private school and beauty pageants. Her deception was thorough and convincing. Carolyn's background revealed a previous conviction for theft and fraud in 1996, where she'd stolen business checks and used arson to destroy evidence. No one was injured in that incident, but she received 5 years probation. Carolyn was charged with kidnapping, arson, assault, concealing the whereabouts of a child, and interfering with custody. Her bail was set at $1 million. Questions remained, including how she maintained her deception for so long. Did Pedro, her cousin, know? Did the child's father recognize his own daughter? Carolyn's trial became complicated when she accused Delamar's father, Pedro, of being involved in the kidnapping. Rumors and allegations of a romantic relationship between Pedro and Carolyn emerged, suggesting a plot for them to become a family. While the judge acknowledged the possibility of an accomplice, no evidence surfaced. Carolyn's defense team argued insanity, but she was ultimately sentenced to 9 to 30 years in prison, eligible for parole in 2014. The case highlighted the power of a mother's intuition. Luz's unwavering belief in her daughter's survival led to Delamar's recovery. The sheer audacity of Carolyn's actions and her ability to maintain a convincing facade underscores the complexities of human nature and the importance of thorough investigations. The case left several lingering questions: the fate of Carolyn's own baby, born 3 days prior, the potential involvement of others in the plot, and the enduring emotional impact on all those involved. This perplexing and deeply disturbing case leaves the audience to question the motivations and actions of those involved in this deeply disturbing case. Lisa, this is the police department. Talk to me. Okay, were you in the house, or did you walk into the house? Okay, you came home, walked into the house, and saw this person laying on the floor. Who was the person to you? Memorial Day weekend, 1992. A prominent middle-aged couple from Huntsville, Alabama, planned a romantic getaway to rekindle their romance. Jack Ray Wilson, born May 5, 1937, was a successful ophthalmologist known for his kindness and charitable work, often providing free care to those in need. He'd been previously married with 3 children. He met his second wife, Betty Woods, a nurse at the same hospital, and they married in 1978. They lived in a luxurious home in the Boulder Circle neighborhood. Their relationship, while loving, had its challenges. Betty struggled with alcohol abuse, and Jack's demanding work schedule and Crohn's disease strained their intimacy. Despite these issues, they planned a trip to Santa Fe, New Mexico to reignite their romance. That Friday afternoon, May 22, 1992, Jack left his office at 4 p.m., returning home to prepare for their trip. Around 4:30 p.m., a neighbor witnessed someone hitting a political campaign sign on the Wilsons' lawn with a baseball bat. This was the last confirmed sighting of Jack alive. Around 9:30 p.m., Betty returned home from an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in Birmingham. She found Jack unconscious and bloodied in the hallway outside their bedroom. Panicked, fearing the perpetrator was still inside, she ran to a neighbor's house and called 911. The 911 dispatcher relayed the information to police. Police arrived, quickly finding Jack's body and a possible murder weapon, a metal baseball bat. A green ski mask was found on the bed. A telephone line was cut. Jack's wallet was empty, but his credit cards remained. The house showed minimal signs of a break-in. The crime scene was puzzling. There were no fingerprints. The lack of ransacking suggested an inside job rather than a random burglary. Initial interviews with family members yielded strong alibis. Betty's credit card trail, receipts from her shopping trip, and witnesses from her AA meeting all supported her alibi. Interviews with Betty revealed a complex relationship marked by both harmony and conflict. She admitted to infidelity, citing Jack's demanding work schedule and illness as contributing factors. Despite their marital troubles, they were attempting to reconcile, planning the Santa Fe trip. The investigation stalled until a tip came from Vincent, Alabama. A woman had overheard a man, James White, boasting about killing a doctor in Huntsville. This led investigators to White, a 42-year-old handyman with a troubled past, including a dishonorable discharge, substance abuse, and a history of incarceration and mental health issues. After 10 hours of questioning, White confessed to being in the Wilson home the night of the murder. A search of his property yielded a pair of blood-stained shoes matching Jack's blood type, a gun registered to Betty, and a book of poetry checked out by Betty. White implicated a woman named Peggy Lowe, a first-grade teacher, in the murder plot. White's account implicated Peggy Lowe, who shockingly turned out to be Betty Wilson's twin sister. Betty Joy Woods and Peggy Gay Woods, born July 14, 1945, had contrasting personalities. Peggy was a wholesome, community-involved individual crowned homecoming queen. Betty was rebellious and enjoyed partying. Both married young, had children, and divorced. Peggy married Wayne Lowe, a church deacon, and dedicated herself to family and faith. Betty moved to Huntsville, continuing her party lifestyle while working as a nurse. She met Jack Wilson and married him. Betty enjoyed the affluent lifestyle Jack provided, but struggled with his demanding job and illness. Their intimacy suffered due to Jack's Crohn's disease and the need for a colostomy bag. A former housekeeper, Shirley Green, testified about an incident involving the colostomy bag during intercourse, causing a significant rift. Betty's infidelity became flagrant even within their home. She joined Alcoholics Anonymous but continued her affairs using friends as alibis. Despite their problems, they attempted reconciliation planning, the Santa Fe trip. The investigation centered on White's testimony, the physical evidence found on his property, and the sisters' relationship. The circumstantial evidence was overwhelming. White's confession, the blood on his shoes, matching Jack's blood type, the gun registered to Betty, and the book of poetry from Betty's library, all pointed toward the sisters' involvement. Both Betty and Peggy were arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. On March 2, 1993, Betty Wilson's trial began in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, to avoid local bias. James White, under a plea deal, testified against her, providing a more coherent version of events. He detailed how Peggy had trusted him and introduced him to Betty. White described how Betty hired him to kill Jack for a financial payout from his estate, arranging a meeting at Lake Gunnersville State Park to exchange the gun and the initial payment. He described being picked up by Betty, waiting inside the house, confronting Jack, and attacking him before fleeing. Betty paid him the remaining amount afterward. Several witnesses corroborated White's testimony. Shirley Green testified about Betty's resentment toward Jack and her frequent affairs. A friend, Brenda Sirha, recounted Betty's comment about being lucky Jack had died. Another witness, Marianne Lowe, who'd attended AA meetings with Betty, confirmed Betty had used her as an alibi. Errol Fitzpatrick testified about his affair with Betty. Betty's defense attempted to use the race card, objecting to Fitzpatrick's testimony, arguing it was an attempt to discredit her based on the racial aspect of her affair. However, the argument didn't hold, and the judge allowed the testimony to be heard. Security guards from Lake Gunnersville State Park confirmed White's account of picking up a book containing the money. Numerous witnesses testified to seeing White near the Wilson residence in the days leading up to the murder. Phone records further supported his interactions with Peggy. Betty's defense argued her interactions with White were attempts to help him with his substance abuse issues, the money being used for AA meetings and lodging. The jury deliberated for 2 days before returning a guilty verdict, sentencing Betty to life imprisonment without parole. 6 months later, Peggy Lowe's trial commenced. Peggy Lowe's trial featured a new judge and jury. The prosecution presented similar evidence and witnesses as in Betty's trial, but the outcome would be drastically different. A new forensic analyst, Dr. Chris Sperry, testified challenging the state's theory of the crime. Dr. Sperry argued that White's confession of acting alone was implausible. He pointed to the lack of blood spatter at the initial crime scene, suggesting Jack was attacked elsewhere and moved to the hallway. He also noted the absence of hair fibers on the baseball bat, which would have been present had it been used in the beating. Sperry theorized that a different weapon, possibly a poker from the fireplace, was used, citing the puncture wound on Jack's shoulder. He believed the weapon was removed from the scene. The defense highlighted Peggy's positive character. Numerous witnesses testified to her kindness, devotion, and community involvement. Peggy's defense argued that she had no motive to kill her brother-in-law. Her reputation as a devoted wife, mother, and church member was emphasized, contrasting sharply with Betty's portrayal. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours before returning a not guilty verdict. Peggy's acquittal, based on the same evidence that convicted Betty, raised serious questions about the fairness and consistency of the justice system. The case reignited the debate on the reliability of witness testimony and the potential for errors in investigations, especially in high-profile cases. James White, the key witness, further complicated matters. In 1994, a year after the trials, he recanted his confession, claiming he'd been coerced into testifying against the sisters. He stated he wanted to make amends for the wrongful accusations, claiming he suffered from blackouts and couldn't recall the events. Prosecutors warned White that recanting could lead to the reinstatement of the death penalty in his case. However, his repeated attempts to change his story and his invocation of his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination weakened his credibility. He was denied parole in both 2004 and 2020. Peggy Lowe returned to teaching after her acquittal. She gave numerous interviews maintaining Betty's innocence and expressing her own continued shock and dismay at the events and their implications. She eventually divorced Wayne Lowe and remarried, changing her name to Peggy Peck. Betty Wilson exhausted her appeals, her conviction remaining firm. Despite White's recanted confession, the court deemed his initial testimony credible, providing crucial evidence in her conviction. While incarcerated, she remarried Bill Campbell, a former Green Beret who'd become interested in her case after watching a television program. Filmmaker Gene Adam Jr. produced a documentary, Finding Betty, questioning the outcome of the case. The documentary highlighted the inconsistencies between Peggy's acquittal and Betty's conviction based on similar evidence, questioned White's reliability, and explored the possibility that Betty was made a scapegoat. The case of Betty Wilson and Peggy Lowe continues to spark debate. The lack of forensic evidence linking Betty to the murder, combined with White's shifting testimonies and the contrasting portrayals of the sisters, leave lingering doubts about the final verdict. The case raises critical questions about the reliability of the justice system. October 1989. After a month-long trial, Christopher Jacobs III was found not guilty in the murders of the Kuntz family. The case, beginning on July 5, 1987, involved the discovery of 5 bodies in Bern, Wisconsin: Helen Kuntz, her sons Kenneth and Randy, and her siblings Clarence and Irene. The only survivor was Kenneth, who found the bodies. Bern was a small town with a close-knit community, but the Kuntz family was considered eccentric, living in a dilapidated house on a large property. They were reclusive, rarely interacting with neighbors, and had accumulated a significant amount of cash, over $20,000, in their home. Rumors of incest and deviant sexual behavior surrounded the Kuntz family for generations. There were whispers of Helen and Randy sharing a bed, and the siblings Clarence, Marie, and Irene sleeping together. These rumors had contributed to the family's isolation within the community. Kenneth discovered the bodies, calling 911. The crime scene indicated a surprise attack. All victims were shot in the head with a .22 caliber weapon. Helen Kuntz was initially missing, raising suspicion she might be involved. Investigators searched the property, finding the home cluttered and unsanitary despite the family's financial resources. Gail Weiler, a local hardware store owner, revealed that Helen had recently purchased .22 caliber bullets, claiming they were for her sons to shoot birds. She also mentioned Helen's complaints about her family watching dirty movies, a detail that, combined with the rumors of incest, fueled the investigation. The investigation initially stalled as Helen Kuntz's whereabouts remained unknown. 9 months later, in April 1988, her body was discovered in a marsh in Taylor County, Wisconsin. She, too, had been shot in the head with a .22 caliber bullet. A new lead emerged in January 1988, Christopher Jacobs III, from nearby Athens, Wisconsin. He'd recently purchased a car from the Kuntz family. This was one of the few known interactions the Kuntz family had with anyone outside their immediate family. A search of Jacobs' property uncovered a car, .22 caliber rifles, ammunition, spent shell casings, and newspaper clippings about the Kuntz murders. Tire tracks from his car matched those found at the Kuntz home. Jacobs was arrested in January 1988, then released without charge. He was rearrested and charged in August 1988. His trial began in October 1989, with a jury selected from Brown County to ensure impartiality. The trial included crime scene photos and videos, highlighting the brutal nature of the killings. Tire tracks and the .22 caliber weapons were presented as evidence. After 10 hours of deliberation, the jury delivered a not guilty verdict, shocking the community. Jacobs was released from custody. However, this would not be the end of the story. In 1993, 5 years after the Kuntz family murders and Christopher Jacobs III's acquittal, a new development emerged. Stacy Weiss, Jacobs's former girlfriend, contacted the Marathon County Sheriff's Office, providing a confession. Weiss claimed Jacobs confessed to the murders in 1991, explaining he committed the killings to prove his manhood. According to Weiss, Jacobs described arriving at the Kuntz home on the evening of July 4, 1987, where he argued with Randy Kuntz before shooting him. He then systematically shot the rest of the family, before tying up Helen Kuntz and taking her to a swamp to kill her. Weiss stated she was initially shocked and disturbed by this confession, but officials believed her account to be credible. The Marathon County Sheriff's Office took Weiss's statement seriously. Jacobs was rearrested and charged with the kidnapping and murder of Helen Kuntz. The statute of limitations was about to expire when he was taken into custody for a second time. 5 years later, in June 1998, Jacobs stood trial again. This time the evidence, while still largely circumstantial, included Weiss's testimony, adding a significant layer to the case. The jury's decision would ultimately be vastly different from the previous one. After only 4 hours of deliberation, the jury found Jacobs guilty of kidnapping and falsely imprisoning Helen Kuntz. He was sentenced to 31 years in prison, with a parole date set for February 2020. On February 4, 2020, 53-year-old Christopher Jacobs III was released on parole. Remarkably, he immediately returned to custody, voluntarily surrendering to the Marathon County Jail, stating he preferred to serve the remainder of his sentence rather than be paroled. Jacobs maintained his innocence, claiming police coerced Weiss into lying. He alleged that the authorities had threatened to retaliate against him for his prior acquittal and wanted to keep him incarcerated regardless of the truth. He claimed the charges were bogus and that he was being targeted by law enforcement. He was held for a short time before being transferred back to the Columbia Correctional Institution to serve the remaining 14 months of his original sentence. The Kuntz family murders remain a complex and unsettling case. The conflicting verdicts, the reliance on circumstantial evidence, and the contrasting accounts of witnesses and suspects create many questions and highlight the fallibility of the justice system. Despite the conviction of Christopher Jacobs III for Helen Kuntz's murder, the question of who killed the rest of the family remains unanswered. Many in Bern still believe the perpetrator was someone within the Kuntz family itself. The unresolved nature of the killings continues to haunt the town. The case underscores the challenges investigators face in solving complex crimes, especially those involving family dynamics, rumors, and limited physical evidence. The story of the Kuntz family remains a chilling reminder of the enduring mysteries that can plague even the closest-knit communities. The story has a lingering question: will the true story of the Kuntz murders ever be uncovered? June 2016. 29-year-old Michelle Hadley was arrested at her home by police officers who had been waiting outside. Her youngest daughter had called to alert her to their presence. Michelle was bewildered, having no idea why she was being arrested. She was charged with threatening another woman, Angela Diaz, someone Michelle claimed never to have met. Michelle Hadley, born December 20, 1986, was the eldest daughter of business owners in Upland, California. She had a close relationship with her parents and was described by friends as polite and kind, yet outspoken and direct. She had been married once, but the relationship ended after 4 years, leaving her feeling disillusioned about love. In 2013, Michelle met Ian Diaz, 9 years her senior, through an online dating site. Their relationship progressed rapidly. By fall 2014, they were living together. Ian, a deputy U.S. Marshal, proposed, and they planned a wedding. Initially, their relationship appeared idyllic. Ian was attentive and loving, but his behavior gradually changed. He became self-loathing and abusive, making increasingly inappropriate requests, pushing Michelle's boundaries. His demands were initially subtle, becoming more explicit and controlling over time. Michelle, raised in a conservative family, felt uncomfortable with Ian's requests, but she attempted to appease him, complying with his wishes. His demands escalated from suggestive clothing to a belly button piercing. Michelle tried to talk it over with Ian, but faced his abusive reactions. Around 2 years after they met in 2015, Michelle and Ian bought a condo in downtown Anaheim for $470,000. Michelle was unaware that Ian had no intention of contributing to the mortgage payments. He made excuses about financial difficulties, promising to pay the next month. Michelle paid the down payment of $144,000 in cash. She paid the mortgage single-handedly, while Ian repeatedly made excuses. Michelle was increasingly troubled and eventually left the condo to live with her parents, but continued to pay the mortgage. Ian's continued refusal to contribute led to arguments and ultimately physical violence. Michelle's attempts to discuss the financial issues were ignored, and when she finally directly confronted him, his anger escalated into a physical altercation. Michelle drafted an email to her sister, explaining the situation, but never sent it. Her anger intensified, and she sent Ian a strongly worded email, expressing her frustration. Ian retaliated by attempting to obtain a restraining order against Michelle. Michelle countered with the fact that Ian hadn't been paying the mortgage. Both hired lawyers. The judge ruled in Michelle's favor, ordering Ian to pay the mortgage balance or face penalties. This marked the end of their relationship, but not the end of the conflict. By 2016, Michelle had moved on, but the condo situation created further turmoil. Ian, still residing in the condo, met Angela Connell through a dating app. Their relationship quickly escalated. Angela became pregnant with twins. However, this seemingly happy turn of events would soon unravel, revealing a dark and shocking truth. Angela Connell, born in 1985, was from Phoenix, Arizona. She graduated from Arizona State University in 2006. Her relationship with Ian Diaz progressed rapidly, culminating in a proposal and Angela moving into Ian's condo. Their happiness, however, was short-lived. Angela received a threatening email. "You're not the right person for Ian." She suspected her ex-boyfriend Jason Rayburn, but he had no way of knowing about her new relationship. More threatening emails arrived from various accounts, all containing similar messages. Angela responded to one email asking for the sender's identity. The reply claimed it was Michelle Hadley. Angela contacted Michelle, demanding she cease contact. The emails continued increasing in intensity and threatening Angela's safety. Fearing for her life, Angela obtained a restraining order against Michelle on June 1, 2016. She recounted feeling fear and anxiety due to the threats. She was afraid to leave her home. Meanwhile, Michelle, unaware of Angela, had been contacted by police. She was arrested and charged with the restraining order violation. Michelle vehemently denied knowing Angela or sending any threatening emails. She explained that she'd received Google and Microsoft alerts indicating unauthorized access to her email account, suspecting her ex-husband. She'd reported this to the Anaheim Police Department, but had been dismissed. Despite her explanations, the police didn't believe her. After Michelle's arrest, Angela began receiving emails in response to Craigslist ads she'd never posted. These ads contained sexually explicit content soliciting sexual coercion fantasies. The ads included Angela's personal information, her full address, phone number, and even the breed of her dog. Only Ian and Michelle knew her full condo address, leading Angela to suspect Michelle's involvement. Fearing for her safety, Angela contacted the police again. She'd been physically assaulted, suffering bruises on her neck, and ripped clothing with her head slammed against a wall. Angela identified Michelle as her assailant. Michelle was rearrested, her bail set at $1 million. While incarcerated, the threatening emails to Angela stopped. The case continued to spiral. Another bizarre development emerged. A man showed up at Angela's condo, responding to one of the sexually explicit Craigslist ads. The police traced the ad back to Michelle's email account. The evidence seemed irrefutable. However, the truth remained elusive. Michelle's parents, believing in her innocence, hired a lawyer and began their own investigation. They obtained Michelle's records, finding a crucial detail: she'd been hospitalized the same day the first threatening emails were sent. This provided an alibi. Her father used software to track the email IP addresses, finding that some originated from Arizona. Angela had been to Arizona during that period to visit her father. The email origin was a turning point in the investigation. A surprising development occurred when Ian Diaz bailed Michelle out of jail, posting the full $1 million bail. This raised more questions than answers. Why would Ian, who had been abused by Michelle, bail her out? What motivated his actions? Ian's surprising intervention led to a stunning confession. He revealed that Angela had framed Michelle, sending threatening emails to herself, using proxy email addresses created in Michelle's name. He presented evidence, including CCTV footage of Angela injuring herself, to support his claims. Angela's lies extended beyond the emails and assault. She'd fabricated her pregnancy, purchasing a sonogram and pregnancy test online. Ian explained that Angela was driven by jealousy and greed, learning about Michelle's wealthy background from Ian's own stories of their past relationship. The motive was revenge for the condo situation. Angela, with Ian's help, orchestrated a plan to ruin Michelle's life and remove her from the equation. Ian provided Michelle's email address. Angela created the fake emails and Craigslist ads. The police searched Angela's devices, confirming Ian's statements. 21 threatening emails were found, sent from Ian's condo in Arizona. Angela's history of deception emerged. She'd used similar tactics with a previous boyfriend, fabricating a cancer diagnosis and a career as an attorney. This complex and twisted story highlighted the depth of human deceit and the challenges of uncovering the truth, even when evidence initially points toward a clear culprit. The story showcases the shocking extent people will go to manipulate and destroy others' lives for personal gain and revenge. In January 2019, nearly 3 years after the events unfolded, Angela Connell was arrested and charged with 10 felonies, including false imprisonment and perjury. Michelle Hadley's name was cleared. Her charges were dropped. The traumatic experience significantly impacted her life. She had to withdraw from her MBA program and lost her job. Despite the ordeal, Michelle rebuilt her life, completing her MBA and finding a new job in field marketing for a cosmetics company. She moved to New York to be closer to her sister. Ian Diaz, separated from Angela, sold the condo for $500,000. In 2021, Ian was charged with perjury, cyberstalking, and conspiracy to commit cyberstalking for his role in framing Michelle. The charges and subsequent legal proceedings reflected the intricate nature of the crimes and their significant impact on all involved. Michelle found some closure and peace after the extensive legal battles and the significant impact it had on her personal life and her career. The case serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of online interactions and the lengths some people will go to manipulate and harm others. The initial focus on Michelle as the perpetrator, despite her repeated denials, underscores the importance of thorough investigations that take into account all possible perspectives and evidence. The ease with which Angela was able to create multiple fake email accounts and manipulate online platforms exposed the vulnerabilities of digital communication and the potential for identity theft and online harassment. The case highlights the need for increased awareness and caution in online interactions and the growing threat of cyberstalking. Angela's fabricated pregnancy and her history of deception with a former boyfriend points to a pattern of manipulative behavior and a willingness to go to extreme lengths to achieve her goals regardless of the harm caused to others. This case was highly publicized and serves as an extreme example of the difficulties and complexities in online crimes. The investigators' initial focus solely on the digital evidence led to a misjudgment of the crimes and the individuals involved. The complexities of the case underscored the importance of considering all aspects of a situation before reaching conclusions. The initial misjudgment led to the wrongful arrest and incarceration of Michelle and the subsequent delays in bringing Angela and Ian to justice. The case highlights the importance of careful evidence review, thorough investigation, and taking into account different perspectives in criminal proceedings. This complex case was unique, highlighting the complex nature of modern online crimes and the challenges law enforcement face in this emerging field. The story ended with Michelle finding renewed success and a sense of justice and closure after facing a harrowing experience of wrongful conviction. Angela and Ian faced criminal justice, paying for their manipulative actions. The case's complexities and numerous unexpected twists serve as a stark reminder of the depths of human deception. The story ends with Michelle's ultimate vindication, underscoring the importance of perseverance, the resilience of the human spirit, and the pursuit of truth and justice in the face of adversity. This case highlighted the complexities of online interactions, the dangers of cyberstalking, and the importance of thorough investigations, serving as a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving. The year is 1999. 17-year-old high school seniors J.B. Beasley and Tracy Hollett were found murdered. Their bodies discovered in the trunk of J.B.'s car bore evidence of a brutal double homicide. This is another example of a case where it initially seemed like it would be an easy case to solve. However, this case had many twists and turns. The case began when Tracy called her mother to let her know they were lost on their way to J.B.'s birthday party. Neither girl returned home. The discovery of the bodies in Ozark, Alabama, shocked the community. The car showed no signs of forced entry. Their belongings remained untouched. Only J.B.'s car keys were missing. Autopsies revealed each girl had been shot once in the head execution style. Initial suspicions of robbery were dismissed, but later testing found traces of unknown semen on J.B.'s body. The lack of other signs of a struggle at the crime scene created suspicion of someone the girls knew. The case stalled. Numerous leads went nowhere. A month after the murders, Johnny Barentine confessed to witnessing the crime, but his story changed repeatedly, eventually admitting to fabricating the tale. His DNA did not match the evidence, leading to his release. The investigation faced criticism for its handling of the case. Suspects emerged: a man from Michigan present at a party near the crime scene, and a man from Mississippi connected to the town but ultimately ruled out. A small white pickup truck was seen on surveillance footage, but the driver remained unidentified. A crucial development occurred in 2015. Rena Crum, an Ozark Auxiliary police officer, made serious accusations against the Ozark Police Department, claiming a cover-up and implicating an officer in the murders. Crum alleged the officer stopped J.B. Beasley, demanding cassette tapes containing incriminating information about illegal cocaine distribution and profits. To prevent the tapes' use in court, the officer allegedly murdered J.B. and Tracy. Crum claimed harassment and threats from multiple officers involved in the initial investigation, including Chief Tony Spivey. She named other officers, but hesitated to name the actual killer. Journalist John B. Carroll wrote articles supporting Crum's allegations, including that Crum was beaten to stop her from revealing information. The accused officers denied involvement. Crum's accusations led to a defamation lawsuit, eventually dismissed, and a separate conviction for harassment. Years passed with no breakthroughs until March 2019, when advancements in DNA technology provided a crucial break. DNA from JB's body was sent to Parabon Nanolabs, leading to the identification of a suspect, Coley McCraney. McCraney, an Alabama native with a past assault charge, worked as a trucker. He lived near the scene of the crime. He was arrested, denying involvement, but the DNA evidence strongly implicated him in the murders. Rena Crum, the officer who had made the allegations of police misconduct, recanted her statements during McCraney's hearing in 2022. McCraney faced 5 counts of capital murder. The families of J, B, and Tracy finally received some closure after decades of uncertainty. However, the case left many questions about the initial investigation's flaws and the validity of Crum's allegations. The case highlighted the significant advancement in DNA technology, providing a crucial tool in solving cold cases and bringing justice to victims' families. The year is 2022. A gruesome discovery in Ingolstadt, Germany unfolds. The body of a young woman, found in the back seat of a car, initially believed to be Sharbon K. A German beauty blogger reveals a shocking twist. The victim is actually Khadija O, an Algerian beauty blogger who lived hundreds of miles away. The initial frantic call to police came from Sharbon K's parents, who'd been unable to contact their daughter after she'd set out to meet her ex-husband. They discovered her abandoned car near the Danube River. Inside the severely injured body of a young woman lay a victim of a brutal stabbing. The victim's identity was initially confirmed through the car's registration, and Sharbon's parents identified her, despite the extensive injuries. The details of the murder seemed straightforward. However, the results of the DNA testing revealed a shocking truth. The police released a statement detailing the violent murder. The press released Sharbon's first name and a picture in line with German legal procedure. Further investigation into Sharbon's life revealed she was a beautician who frequently used social media to promote her work and had been previously married. The crime scene examination revealed several knives, none of which were the murder weapon. Investigators determined the murder occurred elsewhere, the body placed in the car before it was abandoned. Despite a thorough search of the surrounding area, no further clues were uncovered. An autopsy confirmed that the victim had been stabbed 50 times, with no other signs of injury or sexual assault. DNA evidence was collected, quickly processing the evidence. This is where the unexpected twist occurred. The DNA identified the victim as Khadija O, not Sharbon K. The investigation took a sharp turn. Sharbon, previously a potential victim, now became the prime suspect. Earlier reports of a woman resembling the victim cited in Ingolstadt in the days following the discovery were re-examined now, taking on significant importance. CCTV footage from August 17, 2022, placed Sharbon at a local pizzeria. Interviews with the pizzeria's staff and owner led investigators to her alleged lover, Shakir K., a 23-year-old Kosovan national living in Ingolstadt. Shakir K's apartment was close to where the car had been abandoned. He and Sharbon were arrested. Further investigation into Khadija O's online activity revealed contact with Sharbon K on Instagram months before the murder. Many exchanges were found between the two, with Sharbon repeatedly requesting an in-person meeting. Investigators noticed a striking resemblance between the two women. Further investigation into Sharbon's social media accounts uncovered several fake profiles. The investigation revealed a disturbing pattern of online activity, revealing Sharbon and Shakir's quest to find a look-alike. The pair had contacted numerous women online, all of whom rejected their requests to meet. This pattern of behavior, combined with the discovery of the body and the subsequent investigation, led to a shocking revelation about their motives and intentions. The investigation was far from over. German authorities revealed to the press that Sharaban K. had orchestrated a plan to fake her own death using a doppelganger. She was facing significant family issues and sought to escape her life by disappearing, hoping to start anew. Khadija, unfortunately, became the victim of this elaborate and deadly scheme. Sharaban's initial deception involved lying to her parents about meeting her ex-husband in Munich. She then met with Shakir K. in Ingolstadt before traveling to Khadija O's home in Heilbronn. The three then drove back to Ingolstadt, stopping at a secluded wooded area. Khadija was forced out of the car and brutally murdered. Sharaban and Shakir paid particular attention to disfiguring Khadija's face, hoping to make her unrecognizable. They then placed her body in Sharaban's car and drove back to Ingolstadt, abandoning the vehicle in a residential area. Their plan was to have Khadija's body found, creating a believable scenario for Sharaban's disappearance. However, they overlooked a crucial aspect of forensic investigation. The identification of a body relies on more than just facial features. The meticulous investigation, along with the advanced forensic techniques, foiled their plan. Sharaban and Shakir remained in custody for several months before their formal arrest and charges. The investigation uncovered a significant amount of evidence, including witness testimonies, digital forensics, and the crucial DNA match. Their actions were described as selfish and morally depraved. On January 26 and 27, 2023, Sharaban and Shakir were charged with first-degree murder. They faced the prospect of spending their lives in prison if convicted. A police spokesperson emphasized that the evidence against them was overwhelming, despite the murder weapon never being recovered. The brutal nature of the crime, 50 stab wounds and severe facial disfigurement, was highlighted as proof of their culpability. Sharaban's parents, initially relieved at finding their daughter alive, were deeply shocked and saddened by the revelation of her involvement in Khadija's death. The rapper Loon, whom Sharaban had impersonated, released a statement expressing condolences to Khadija's family and highlighting the dangers of online interactions. The case underscored the dark side of social media, revealing how appearances can be deceptive and evil can hide behind a beautiful facade. This case served as a stark warning about the need for caution in online relationships and highlighted the risks associated with making friends online. Sharaban's actions, born from desperation and a desire to escape her family, resulted in a tragic and senseless loss of life. The case's shocking twists, including the mistaken identity of the victim and the perpetrator's elaborate plot to fake a death, left a chilling impression. The story concluded with the legal proceedings against Sharaban and Shakir, focusing on the gravity of their crimes and the devastating consequences of their actions. The case raised significant questions about online safety and the vulnerabilities of digital interactions, prompting a renewed call for vigilance and caution among social media users. September 4, 1981. In Lakeland, Florida, 12-year-old Tim Slayton and 15-year-old Jeff Slayton discovered their mother Linda Slayton dead in their apartment. She was partially naked, beaten, and strangled with a metal coat hanger. The crime scene suggested a violent and personal attack. Linda Slayton, born March 8, 1950, had a challenging past. She'd been married to Frank Slayton, an abusive alcoholic who inflicted violence upon her and her sons. She divorced him in 1974, becoming a single mother determined to provide for her two sons. Linda worked hard, juggling her job with household responsibilities. Jeff and Tim often walked or shared rides to school. They played football, receiving rides to practice from their coach, Joe Mills. Linda's sister Judy frequently visited, providing support and company. A week before the murder, Linda prepared for her mother's visit, hoping for assistance in managing the household. On September 4th, Judy arrived to find Linda's bedroom window open, a sheet missing. Inside, she discovered Linda's lifeless body. Police and paramedics arrived quickly. Jeff and Tim were taken to their grandparents while the apartment was secured. Jeff didn't see his mother's body, but Tim witnessed the horrific scene. The autopsy revealed severe injuries. Linda had been beaten, sexually assaulted, and strangled. Sergeant Edgar Pickett led the initial investigation, noting a crucial palm print on the windowsill. The lack of forensic DNA technology at the time hampered the investigation. Suspects were investigated. Frank Slayton, Linda's ex-husband, was initially considered a prime suspect, but had an alibi. Jeff Slayton, having argued with his mother the night before, underwent polygraph tests and was cleared. Linda's boyfriend also had an alibi. The investigation stalled for years, becoming a cold case. In September 2001, a tip surfaced about Jimmy Ulmer, a man convicted of a similar crime and residing in the same apartment complex. Unfortunately, Ulmer died before a DNA comparison could be made. Despite this setback, detectives continued their search for the killer. The case languished for years, hampered by a lack of technological advancements. In 1998, Detective Brad Grace took over the case. He found unidentified DNA collected from 1981 and sent it to the FDLE crime lab for processing. By 1999, the FDLE created a full DNA profile of the unknown killer. Detective Grace collected DNA samples from potential suspects, including the Slayton brothers and Frank Slayton, but none were matches. The unidentified DNA profile was sent to the FBI's National DNA Database. Detective Grace tirelessly pursued the case, eliminating dozens of suspects over the next several years. He retired in 2015, with the case remaining unsolved. It was then reassigned to detectives Tommy Hathcock and Russell Hurley. 3 years later, the detectives learned of new FDLE DNA technology capable of identifying previously unidentifiable DNA samples. They sent the unidentified DNA from the 1981 crime scene to C.C. Moore, a genetic genealogist. Moore utilized GEDmatch, a public genealogy website, to build a genetic family tree based on the DNA. She constructed 3 separate family tree branches, narrowing down the possibilities and ultimately leading to a shocking suspect. This individual had an unexpected connection to the Slayton family. The family tree definitively pointed to one person, Joseph Clinton Mills, known as Coach Joe, the Slaytons' trusted football coach, who often provided rides to and from football practices, placing him in close proximity to the family at Rach, multiple points around the time of the murder. Detectives Hathcock and Hurley, armed with the name Joseph Clinton Mills, began investigating his background. They discovered he'd spent most of his 58 years in Kathleen, Florida, a short drive from the crime scene in Lakeland. He had children and grandchildren and was married. A crucial piece of information emerged. Mills had been implicated in a past grand theft case involving a forged will, although he was never charged. His fingerprints and palm prints were available in the system. This presented an opportunity to potentially link him to the 1981 murder. Detectives compared the palm print found on Linda Slayton's windowsill to Mills's palm print on file. A match was confirmed. They still needed to compare Mills's DNA to the unidentified DNA profile from the crime scene, requiring them to obtain a recent DNA sample. To avoid alerting Mills to the investigation, they obtained his DNA surreptitiously. They searched his garbage, recovering a discarded piece of medical adhesive tape. This tape was sent to the crime lab for analysis and DNA extraction. While awaiting the results, detectives delved deeper into Mills's life. They learned more about his involvement with the Slayton family. His frequent interactions with Tim Slayton, providing rides to and from football practices, placed him in proximity to the family around the time of the murder. His presence in and around the family's home and his close association with Tim raised suspicions regarding his potential motive and opportunity. The evidence suggested a pattern of behavior that was increasingly suspicious and disturbing. 2 weeks later, the crime lab confirmed a match between the unknown DNA from the 1981 crime scene and Mills's DNA from the discarded tape. This provided conclusive evidence linking him to the murder. The investigation concluded. A full picture of that fateful night started to come into focus. In December 2019, Mills was arrested and questioned. He initially denied involvement, but under pressure gave a confession that revealed a disturbing account of the events of September 3rd and 4th, 1981. Mills admitted to being at the Slayton home after dropping Tim off from football practice, later returning and entering the home through Linda's bedroom window. He hid in her closet until she fell asleep, then he attacked her. He described beating, sexually assaulting, and strangling Linda Slayton with a wire hanger. His confession painted a grim and detailed picture of the brutal murder and the chilling events that led up to this tragic crime. At Mills's sentencing hearing, Linda Slayton's family confronted him, demanding an explanation for his actions. He only offered the statement, "I am a good person," providing no remorse or explanation for his brutal crime. He received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The Slayton brothers, while finding some measure of closure in Mills's conviction, experienced a profound sense of betrayal. Tim Slayton's revelation that Mills had been his trusted coach and mentor added another layer to their emotional distress. The case underscored the complexities of human nature, highlighting the shocking capacity for violence and deception even within seemingly trusted relationships. The investigation, spanning decades, emphasized the persistence of law enforcement and the power of advanced forensic technology in solving cold cases. The story left lasting questions and a somber reflection on the profound impact of violence on families and communities. The case remains a haunting testament to the darkness that can lie beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. The detectives involved felt a sense of satisfaction at finally bringing a killer to justice after all the years of uncertainty. December 15, 1997. A fire engulfed the Philadelphia home of Luzada Cuevas and Pedro Vera. Their 2 older sons escaped, but their 10-day-old daughter Delamar was missing. The fire was quickly extinguished, but a thorough search of the property turned up no trace of the infant. The initial investigation concluded the fire was accidental, caused by a faulty extension cord connected to a space heater. The case was closed. Delamar was presumed dead. Luz, however, remained unconvinced, believing her daughter was still alive. Luz, born in 1971, had immigrated to the United States at a young age. She and Pedro had 2 sons before Delamar's birth. Luz's unwavering belief in her daughter's survival fueled her relentless search over the next several years. The absence of Delamar's body, coupled with Luz's persistent claims, caused a growing rift within the family and ultimately led to the breakdown of Luz's marriage to Pedro. Luz was relentless in her efforts to uncover the truth surrounding her daughter's disappearance. Years passed. Luz continued to express her belief that Delamar was still alive, and her unwavering certainty led many to believe that she was losing touch with reality. However, Luz's persistence would eventually lead to an unexpected and shocking breakthrough. In January 2004, Luz attended a family gathering in Philadelphia. There she encountered a 6-year-old girl who bore an uncanny resemblance to her daughter. The girl's size and age matched Delamar's, but it was her smile, revealing a dimple, that solidified Luz's suspicion. Luz learned the girl's name was Aaliyah Hernandez. She felt certain that this child was Delamar. She needed evidence to corroborate her theory. In a bold and risky move, she surreptitiously collected several of Aaliyah's hairs, placing them in a bag. Luz went to the police station with the hair samples. Her claims, however, were dismissed. The fire investigation was considered closed. Delamar's death was a matter of record. The police were dismissive of Luz's accusations. Despite their dismissal, Luz remained determined. She sought help from Pennsylvania State Representative All Hail Cruz. She recounted her 6-year-long search and her unwavering belief that Delamar had been kidnapped. Cruz found Luz's account credible. He forwarded her information and the hair samples to the district attorney's office, initiating a new investigation. DNA testing was conducted. The results would reveal a shocking and unbelievable truth. The seemingly impossible had become a reality. The DNA tests confirmed Luz's long-held belief Aaliyah Hernandez was indeed Delamar Cuevas Vera. The baby presumed dead in the fire was alive. Carolyn Correa, Pedro's cousin, who was present at Luz's house the night of the fire, was then identified as a key suspect in the kidnapping. A new investigation was opened to uncover the truth. The confirmation that Aaliyah Hernandez was Delamar Cuevas Vera initiated a new investigation into Carolyn Correa's actions. Carolyn, who had been present at Luz and Pedro's house the night of the fire, was now the prime suspect in Delamar's kidnapping. The investigation uncovered a shocking pattern of deception and a motive far more complex than initially suspected. Carolyn Correa had a history of difficult pregnancies and multiple miscarriages. She had 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. This raised immediate questions about her motives for kidnapping a 10-day-old infant, particularly given that she already had a daughter. The timeline of events surrounding Delamar's disappearance revealed a meticulously planned scheme. Carolyn had used the pretext of car trouble to gain access to Luz and Pedro's home the night of the party. She'd taken advantage of the distraction and chaos to steal Delamar from her crib. Carolyn then started the fire to destroy any evidence and create a plausible scenario for Delamar's death. She transported Delamar across state lines to her home in Willingboro, New Jersey. Days later, she claimed to have given birth to Aaliyah Hernandez. For 6 years, Carolyn raised Delamar as her own child, enrolling her in private school and beauty pageants. She successfully maintained her deception, convincing family, friends, and even authorities of her fabricated story. The investigation uncovered a darker side to Carolyn's past. She'd been convicted in a 1996 theft and fraud case, using arson to conceal her crime. This pattern of using arson to cover up her actions suggested a premeditated approach to the events surrounding Delamar's disappearance. Carolyn was arrested and charged with kidnapping, arson, assault, concealing the whereabouts of a child, and interfering with custody. Her bail was set at $1 million. The investigation into her actions and her motives continued to unfold. The trial became unexpectedly complicated when Carolyn accused Delamar's father, Pedro, of involvement in the kidnapping. Rumors circulated about a possible romantic relationship between Carolyn and Pedro, suggesting a pre-existing plan for them to raise Delamar as a family. These allegations, however, remained unsubstantiated. Despite the lack of concrete evidence to support Carolyn's claims against Pedro, the judge acknowledged the possibility of an accomplice involved in the crime. The extensive investigation failed to identify any further individuals involved, leaving the possibility of an accomplice unproven. Carolyn's defense attempted to argue insanity. However, this plea didn't succeed. She was found guilty and sentenced to 9 to 30 years in prison, eligible for parole in 2014. The case concluded, but many questions lingered about the motivations and actions of those involved, raising questions about the complexities of human behavior. The case of Luzada Cuevas and the recovery of her daughter Delamar highlights the enduring power of a mother's intuition and the unwavering determination to reunite with a lost child. Luzada's relentless pursuit of the truth, despite skepticism and dismissal from authorities, ultimately led to the successful recovery of her daughter after 6 years of separation. The investigation also underscores the devastating consequences of parental deception and the far-reaching impacts of such actions on families and individuals. Carolyn Correa's actions not only resulted in the separation of a mother and daughter, but also caused significant emotional distress and strained relationships within extended families. Carolyn's elaborate deception maintained over several years is a testament to her manipulative capabilities. She skillfully fabricated a story, convincing those around her of her version of events. This highlighted the complexities of human behavior and the capability of individuals to commit heinous acts and maintain a convincing facade. The case also raised important questions about the responsibilities of law enforcement and the importance of thorough investigations, even when evidence seems clear-cut. The initial dismissal of Luz's concerns and the premature closing of the case highlight the need for a more nuanced approach to investigations that accounts for the possibility of deception and alternative explanations. The investigation's initial focus on the fire as the cause of Delamar's death serves as a cautionary tale about jumping to conclusions in complex cases. The authorities' failure to consider the possibility of kidnapping based on the initial evidence resulted in a significant delay in the recovery of Delamar and the apprehension of the perpetrator. Thorough and open investigations should include multiple hypotheses, considering all available evidence to prevent such critical oversight. The case also brought to light the shortcomings of the legal system, highlighting the difficulties in prosecuting cases based on circumstantial evidence and the challenges of reconciling conflicting narratives. Carolyn Correa's defense of insanity, while ultimately unsuccessful, illustrated the complexities of determining culpability in complex criminal proceedings. The story highlights the importance of trust, both between families and within law enforcement. Luz's determination to find her daughter is matched only by the steadfast support of her family in their tireless efforts to uncover the truth. Despite the immense challenges and the significant emotional toll the case has placed upon the family, the unwavering support and the dedication to uncovering the truth has ultimately yielded a positive result. The successful outcome in this case offers a glimmer of hope and a testament to the enduring strength of family bonds and the power of perseverance in the face of adversity. While the legal processes and the extensive emotional trauma caused by this case created significant suffering, the story ended with a positive outcome. The recovery of Delamar and the successful prosecution of Carolyn Correa provide a measure of closure, emphasizing the importance of pursuing justice even when facing significant obstacles. This case emphasizes the enduring power of a mother's love and the relentless pursuit of truth and justice. The case serves as a powerful reminder that despite the darkness and complexity of human behavior, hope, perseverance, and unwavering determination can ultimately triumph. The case ends on a note of hope and emphasizes the strength of the human spirit. The case of Jack and Betty Wilson, and the subsequent trial of Betty and her twin sister Peggy Lowe, remains a compelling example of a complex murder investigation, highlighting the challenges of relying solely on witness testimony and the Jack-Div potential for miscarriages of justice. The case began with the discovery of Jack Wilson's body in his Huntsville, Alabama home, and the ensuing investigation revealed a web of deceit and conflicting accounts. Jack Wilson, a successful ophthalmologist, was found murdered in his home. The initial investigation pointed toward a burglary gone wrong, but inconsistencies in the crime scene suggested an inside job. The lack of forensic evidence, along with the reliance on the testimony of James White, created a compelling but ultimately flawed narrative. Betty Wilson, Jack's wife, was initially considered a suspect due to her admitted infidelities and strained relationship with Jack. However, she maintained her innocence throughout the investigation. Her twin sister Peggy Lowe was also implicated, leading to both women being arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. James White, the key witness for the prosecution, provided a confession implicating both Betty and Peggy in a murder-for-hire plot. He detailed how Peggy had introduced him to Betty, who then hired him to kill Jack for financial gain. White's testimony was crucial in securing Betty's conviction. However, White's testimony was not without its flaws. His story changed over time, causing concerns about its reliability. He later recanted his confession, claiming he'd been coerced by investigators, further complicating the case and raising questions about the validity of his original statements. Peggy Lowe, unlike Betty, had a solid reputation in her community and maintained her innocence. She was acquitted while Betty was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. The conflicting verdicts, based on largely the same evidence and testimony, highlighted the inconsistencies and potential biases within the justice system. The case raises important questions about the fairness of the trial and the potential for miscarriages of justice. The lack of physical evidence linking Betty to the crime, coupled with the questionable reliability of the key witness, leaves doubts about the true extent of her involvement in her husband's murder. The case also reveals the complexities of familial relationships and the hidden tensions that can exist beneath the surface of seemingly stable family units. The twin sisters' contrasting personalities and drastically different outcomes underscore the complexities of individual behavior and the challenges of predicting human actions based on appearances or perceived characteristics. The Wilson case remains a compelling example of how circumstantial evidence and unreliable witness testimony can have significant impacts on judicial outcomes, highlighting the importance of thorough investigation, reliable evidence, and again, nuanced approach to the complexities of human relationships and motivations. The case remains a source of debate, questioning the reliability of the evidence presented and prompting discussions about possible miscarriages of justice. The case of Kenneth Kuntz and the unsolved murders of his family highlights the enduring mysteries that can plague even the closest-knit communities. The story began with Kenneth's horrifying discovery of his family's lifeless bodies in their home in Bern, Wisconsin, on July 5, 1987. The ensuing investigation, one of the longest in Marathon County's history, was filled with twists, turns, and unresolved questions. Kenneth Kuntz awoke with a headache to discover his mother Helen, his brother Randy, and his aunts and uncles Clarence and Irene all murdered. The only survivor, Kenneth, was understandably distraught and immediately alerted authorities. The crime scene revealed a brutal and systematic attack with all victims shot in the head. Helen Kuntz was initially missing, fueling speculation about her possible involvement. The Kuntz family was known for their reclusive lifestyle and eccentric behavior. Rumors of incest and deviant behavior swirled around the family for decades, contributing to their isolation within the small town of Bern. These rumors, combined with the family's unconventional living conditions, made the investigation more challenging. The family's home was described as dilapidated and cluttered. Despite their financial resources and the discovery of $20,000 in cash within the home, the absence of any signs of forced entry raised immediate questions about the nature of the crime. The initial investigation focused on several individuals and the local hardware store owner's revelation that Helen Kuntz had recently purchased. .22 caliber bullets added another layer to the mystery. However, this lead did not initially provide a clear suspect. Helen Kuntz's disappearance initially complicated the investigation. This discovery, however, did not bring a resolution to the case. In January 1988, Christopher Jacobs III, who'd recently purchased a car from the family, became a person of interest. Evidence linking Jacobs to the crime, including tire tracks and .22 caliber ammunition, was presented in court. However, he was initially acquitted of all charges. 5 years later, Jacobs' ex-girlfriend Stacy Weiss provided a confession implicating Jacobs in the murders. This led to his rearrest and eventual conviction for the kidnapping and murder of Helen Kuntz, but this didn't fully solve the mystery. Despite Jacobs' conviction, the question of who committed the murders of the other family members remains unanswered. This cold case highlights the complex dynamics of family relationships, rumors, and community perception, all of which contributed to a case filled with multiple suspects, twists, and turns. The case of the Kuntz family continues to fuel speculation and leaves a lasting sense of unease and uncertainty surrounding the small town of Bern, Wisconsin. The unresolved nature of the case continues to haunt the community. The enduring mystery serves as a reminder of the challenges in solving cold cases, the limitations of forensic techniques, and the complexities of human behavior. The case of the Kuntz family murders underscores the challenges inherent in solving complex crimes, particularly those involving family dynamics, limited physical evidence, and the passage of time. The investigation, spanning several years, involved numerous twists and turns, leading to both an acquittal and a conviction, yet leaving many questions unanswered. Christopher Jacobs III's initial acquittal, despite circumstantial evidence linking him to the crime, highlighted the limitations of relying solely on circumstantial evidence in court proceedings. The jury's decision, despite the presence of potential forensic evidence, underscored the difficulties of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt in the absence of a clear and undeniable link to the crime. The subsequent confession implicating Jacobs, obtained through the testimony of his ex-girlfriend Stacy Weiss, and the eventual conviction for the kidnapping and murder of Helen Kuntz, demonstrated the importance of persistence in accessible investigations and the potential for new information to emerge over time. However, the conviction only addressed a portion of the overall case. The fact that Jacobs was only convicted of the murder of Helen Kuntz, while the other 4 murders remain unsolved, underscores the challenges of connecting a suspect to multiple crimes with limited direct evidence. The lack of a clear motive also hampered the investigation, leaving speculation and unanswered questions surrounding the true perpetrator of the other 4 murders. The persistent rumors of incest and dysfunctional family dynamics within the Kuntz family added a layer of complexity to the investigation. These rumors, while not directly provable, cast a shadow of suspicion over the possibility of an insider committing the crime. The nature of the rumors made it difficult for investigators to gain the full cooperation and trust of those who may have had knowledge of the events. The case also highlights the importance of thorough investigations even in smaller communities, where the close-knit nature of the community might seem to make the investigation straightforward. The reclusive nature of the Kuntz family made gathering information and interviewing potential witnesses significantly more challenging. The years-long investigation and the eventual conviction demonstrate the dedication and persistence of law enforcement agencies. The investigation shows the importance of advanced forensic techniques in solving cold cases and the critical role of witness testimonies. However, it also highlights the limitations of such techniques in the absence of sufficient and direct evidence. Despite the conviction of Christopher Jacobs III, the unresolved aspects of the Kuntz family murders remain a somber reminder of the challenges in bringing justice to victims and their families. The case serves as a study in the difficulties of prosecuting complex crimes, underscoring the need for meticulous investigation, sound judgment, and the pursuit of all potential leads, however, seemingly improbable in seeking the truth. The mystery of the Kuntz family murders continues to linger, serving as a chilling testament to the unpredictability of human behavior and the enduring mysteries that can remain within even the closest communities. The case is a haunting example of the complexities and frustrations inherent in criminal investigations. The stories we've explored highlight the complexities of criminal investigations, the enduring power of human connection, and the persistent search for justice. Each case, unique in its details, underscores the challenges faced by law enforcement, families, and communities in the pursuit of truth and resolution. The Costa Mesa double homicide, driven by greed and a callous disregard for human life, showcased the devastating consequences of unchecked impulses and the importance of thorough investigations that uncover hidden layers of deceit. Daniel Wozniak's meticulously planned crimes and subsequent conviction serve as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath a seemingly normal exterior. The disappearance of Michaela Garrick, a case marked by mistaken identity, flawed initial responses, and the passage of time, illustrated the critical need for precise information gathering and the relentless pursuit of justice, even in the face of overwhelming obstacles. The eventual identification and arrest of David Misch decades after the crime highlights the power of perseverance and technological advancements in solving cold cases. The tragic case of Linda Slayton, solved years later through advanced DNA technology, revealed the devastating impact of domestic violence and the importance of family support in the face of unimaginable loss. The discovery that the trusted coach Joe Mills was the perpetrator underscores the importance of thorough investigations, even when the most trusted individuals are involved. The case of Luz and Delamar Cuevas Vera, a remarkable tale of a mother's unwavering belief and the successful recovery of her daughter, highlights the strength of human connection and the triumph of perseverance over adversity. Carolyn Correa's elaborate deception and subsequent conviction underscore the importance of thorough and open-minded investigations. The case of Jack and Betty Wilson and the contrasting fates of Betty and her twin sister Peggy Lowe exemplifies the challenges inherent in relying solely on witness testimony and the possibility of miscarriages of justice. The conflicting outcomes based on similar evidence raise important questions about the complexities of judicial processes. The Kuntz family murders, a case marked by unresolved questions and a lingering sense of mystery, highlighted the challenges inherent in solving crimes with limited physical evidence and the importance of thorough investigation, even amidst rumors and speculation. Despite the eventual conviction of Christopher Jacobs for one of the 5 murders, many questions remain. These stories, while vastly different in their details, share common threads: the enduring impact of crime on families and communities, the importance of thorough investigations, the power of perseverance, the complexities of human behavior, and the ongoing pursuit of justice. Each case serves as a reminder that truth is often elusive, and that the search for justice is a journey often fraught with obstacles, but ultimately worthwhile. The human spirit in the face of tragedy can display remarkable resilience and an unwavering dedication to obtaining justice.